Mike told me that Jane is, yes, at another meeting and said she won't get here. As it turns out, the other meeting is over in the police building, so it's conceivable she might end early and come back by, but she's basically saying from what Susan said, she won't be here. So, good afternoon. I welcome you to the Eastham Water Management Committee meeting for September. It's 2 p.m. on the 13th of September, and I'm calling us to order, reminding you that we are being broadcast live and also videotaped, so there will be a record of the meeting. Let's see. Normally Jane goes first, and it's nice because she touches on many topics, and we normally go back and pick up those topics and discuss them in a little bit more detail if we need to. But so our pattern is a little bit different. I could suggest we review the minutes. That's kind of helpful for getting people's minds.
What I can do is put them up on the screen, because I only heard from a couple of people that they'd received them, so I don't know about the other people. So let me see what I can do here to get them up.
Okay. While you're doing that, I can tell you that the minutes are correct for my memory. The only comment I'd make is on the second page, the units is milligrams per liter and not what you put there. I don't know whether you put percent or something like that, but it's milligrams.
Well, you did use the term 4% as well.
I did.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
That's where I got it from.
Yes, yes. We were.
Let me look at what you're talking about so I can get it correct. Okay? Hold on a minute. It's, I'm looking for draft of August. Oops, sorry.
Well.
Trying to extend the screen and instead flipped down on me. Why I usually work with a mouse instead of this. I don't like these things. Okay. I'll get it to come down. Okay, well, I guess what I'm gonna have to do is just move it as people feel that they have seen it. Because I can't get the whole thing up there.
Sure.
You ready to move on, or?
Yep, I see heads nodding.
Well, that's the other question, too. I realized I hadn't gone back and looked at that. I guess they don't have the tech memos yet. No one has said anything about it, so that would be another question.
For Susan or for Jane?
For Jane, yeah, it has to come in. Okay.
Adele, you're correct. I think percent is in fact the right.
Well, you used two. You did give the milligrams per liter, but you also said, used a percentage, and I just elected to use the percentage rather than thinking that that might mean more to people than the milligrams,
Yeah.
since they don't know how many milligrams there should be.
Right.
Or at least I don't. I should speak for myself.
I
I
don't
don't know
know
how
either.
many milligrams it
What
should
is needed
be.
for life?
Well, a full amount of oxygen in the water at the right temperature would be
Yeah, but that-
eight
that's what I was trying to gauge.
milligrams per liter.
Okay.
Okay,
But
so-
what we had is very, very, very low, so 4.2% is in fact,
And at 8 milligrams per liter, would we have 25% dissolved oxygen? Just get that high?
the,
my notes might have it. Let me see.
well, 8 milligrams is equal to 100%.
100%, okay.
Yeah, that's the way it is. But no, Adele, you're right, you do have it right, the
Yeah.
right way.
You said .39 milligrams per liter, or equals 4%.
Yep, yep, yep. Super.
Well,
Okay.
based on that, I move we accept these minutes.
So, second, all those discussion, no discussion, all those favor, say aye, raise your
Aye.
hand. So I see 5, and we have no one against, and we have no abstentions. So, all right. Well,
Here's something people might, Jane normally does this construction update. And I happen to be interested in this, so
go ahead.
if you look at the maps, I think I can get the right one, they now have a map. This is the map of what's completed, let me see. Trouble with this is, I think I can shrink it on my screen, because it doesn't matter, because you'll be able to see it big anyway. Come on. Let me see a little bit more to get to the. Should be something, maybe it's up at the top. Sometimes it's at the bottom, sometimes it's at the top, and sometimes it's no place. That would allow you to change the size of this. And we may have to do it in 2 pieces. So this, everything in red is what was completed as of August 6th. And then, they've been working since then, so you get some sense. It says August 31 down here. But I thought the legend, when I looked at it before, said as of August 6th. This, August 31, I think, is when they posted it. I think
Okay.
there's probably some more that's been done since then. So as you can see, Phase 1 is just about done. And I know, because I get those weekly emails, that, have you seen those signs about construction on Route 6? Supposed to start yesterday, the 12th. What that construction is that stretch from the Wellfleet Town Line down to Nauset Road is going to be repaved. So we'll remove that stripping at that location. So that will be done before winter. So we'll only have the strip down from Nauset Road down to the Rotary.
Is it the intention that all those surfaces will be repaved?
I don't know about all of Route 6, yes. I don't know if they're planning to do it on the side roads, but I know that all of Route 6 is to be repaved, so they'll do that. They'll do the remainder, the southern half, in the spring.
Yeah.
That'll help. I can't even drive down those roads. I have to drive in the opposite lane.
You
I
drive
can't,
the
man,
left
a
lane.
one-ton truck, you can't drive over those roads. It's
I do.
ridiculous.
Well, I can add something to that. I was able to speak with Mark White from Environmental Partners within the past 2 weeks. And my comment was that on Samoset, the repavement was incredibly good. I mean, there's very little indication of
Seven.
settling there. I asked Mark about Route 6 going south to the Rotary from Town Hall, and he said that is also scheduled for repavement, but not until next year. And he also said that there were a lot of features in the road that kept them from making it as smooth as they intended to. And if you look at it, there's all those catch basins, and about every 3 catch basins, there's a manhole, and it's part of just the network of pipes, and it allows them to go in and, I guess, clean or fix something if they had a problem into the future. But the tops of those manholes for the drains are irregular on the surface to begin with. And so they were really limited as to how much alignment they could do. And I guess the thing is that when they do go in and repave, they will correct the height of the top of the manhole such that it, in fact, is a smooth road again. At least that's my assumption. So,
Seems like it'd make more sense to put it in at the right height.
well, I mean, it's a,
Unless they're gonna add a lot of height to the new road, I don't know, maybe that's the problem.
well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen diagrams dated 1938 for when they were putting in drainage and manholes. So that may be really kind of as old as that surface is. I don't know when they put in the curbing and that kind of stuff. But it's just, they did the best they could with what they had at that time.
Charles, I got a solicitation from a company authorized to do the connection work. When do folks start doing that? I mean, they don't have water in the pipe, of course, but when do,
The,
maybe to beat the rush, do people hook up?
I think you could do it right now. I plan to do it within the next week. And if, that's another thing that's now available, if you look up on the Water Project website, they've now published the list of approved contractors and plumbers, because you gotta use somebody that's on that list.
Right.
So, but that's out, and I would think once that's out,
well,
you can go forward.
Yeah.
I certainly plan to.
actually, I can add something to that. Let's see. In the past month, we've had the 2 training sessions for the plumbers and the contractors such that they would be qualified to be on the list, to be chosen by homeowners to the connection. And I went to the training, the second training session that they held here in this room. And there was, they said at the meeting, 75 to 80 people had then completed the training by the end of the second training, which seemed to me to indicate that there were some plumbers and contractors from just beyond Eastham that were
Oh, there are.
interested in looking for the business.
Yeah, there are. There's some, in fact, one of the people I'm gonna call, I won't advertise, is a plumber. It's a plumbing company we use all the time, and they're not in East Hampton. They're further up.
So, yeah, so I went to that training. It was conducted by the company that is, or at least there was a representative from the company there that's selling the meters, because the meters are the kind of the key thing. But they did talk about all of the different characteristics, sort of technical points that the plumbers would need to know. The town has a plumbing inspector. I don't know his full name. He was referred to in the meeting as Scott, and Scott was there, and he did handle some questions as well. So I can tell you that, let's see, in that meeting, they basically said things like, if the distance between the curb and the house is more than 150 feet, then the town is going to require a meter pit. And
Also, if it's not in a heated heated building.
Yes.
It has to be within 150 feet, and it has to be in a heated building.
Yes. And they actually had at the training a heavy-duty plastic meter pit. And it's basically, it was sort of similar to what would be a 55-gallon drum, but a smaller top. And they would use the natural heat of the soil to essentially keep it from freezing here on the Cape. Basically, the line would enter the cylinder down at 4 feet down or so, come up and go into a meter, then go back down into the ground and continue on to the house. So the meter itself would be right under the lid of the container there, the pit. That was one point of information that came there. Let's see,
Charles, I didn't understand that from my discussions with them and also from reading the regs. Talked about the meter having to be 4.5 feet down.
yes, at that training, they did talk about there would be some situations like that, and I didn't really catch the detail.
Well, it's in the regulations. It says meters have to be 4.5 feet below ground. And it's my understanding, talking about the meter pits, that they're applying that same rule to the meter pits, so I don't know.
Yeah, the frost line is at 4 feet. When you dig a
Right.
water line in, it
Yeah.
has to be at least 4 feet deep.
Yeah, so they're concerned about the meters freezing. I mean, one of the requirements, sorry, these things keep coming up.
Yeah,
One of the-
geothermal heating at 4 feet or something, don't you? And that'll probably
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
it warm.
Because one of the requirements in the regulations is you have to keep the meter from freezing, which obviously, if it's in your house, you have control over. If it's out there in a meter pit, you don't. And so it was my understanding that how they're dealing with that is even in the meter pit, the meters will be sunk far enough to be protected by the ground.
You know?
You know, Adele, now that you've said that, there was some discussion in that meeting just about what you're talking about. And I believe the instructor, I think the company that's providing these pits, pointed out that the geothermal heat would in fact be rising in the pit. And so it's
Maybe that's how
okay,
they're dealing
it's
with it,
okay to have the meter, this kind of meter for what it is, that close to the surface.
Yeah, basements don't have heat, and they're always 50 degrees all winter.
Yeah, and that's pretty much a standard number throughout North America. You know, 50, 54 degrees
Yeah.
is once you get 4 feet down or so. So I just looking,
Yeah, except not all basements are underground,
Yeah,
which can
right.
be a problem.
Yeah.
Ours is not where our water enters the house, anyway.
yeah, I'll just repeat some of the other points that just kind of came up. Apparently, the town has engaged a company called Whitewater, and that is the company that will operate the water system, as distinguished from Environmental Partners, which is the engineering company that kind of has done the engineering and provided the scoping documents and all that. There's some gee whiz things here that I just wanted to tell you about the meter. The meter sends out a signal every 15 seconds, and it holds in the meter 90 days worth of flow in its memory. And it operates from a battery, and the battery predicted life is 22 years. And I spoke with Mark White also, and basically he was saying, well, we can read the meters just by driving the length of Route 6. In other words, the strength of the signal is that big. And, now my own personal comments I'd make on that is that, and they talked about it in the meeting with the plumbers, if you get a signal that indicates some continuous flow, that's a leak. It's at least a leak on the homeowner's side of the permit or the meter. And that's a very nice thing to have because you're protecting the homeowner from a big bill. And you're also conserving the water because you're not providing water that you don't have to
Or a line
provide.
break.
Provide, yeah. And I also know that, because I go to the Orleans Water and Sewer Commission meetings and listen to the conversation there, they do have problems of undetected leaks, and they do have issues where homeowners have to come and petition for a lower bill, forgiveness of some sort. And they discuss the details of where the leak was and what it was caused by. So, and Orleans is also, they also have right now 20 test meters in. And sure enough, one of them had a leak, and they picked it up from the readings that were coming in.
And they then contact the homeowner in time? I mean,
Well, I've listened to a number of discussions that way. If the town staff, who's in the water department, has some indication from their previous experience that there might be a leak going on, yes, they are careful to be as quick as they can and make it and go to the place where the homeowner wants to receive some kind of a notice such as that. But there are many homeowners that are someplace else in the wintertime, so it's a little hard to be sure you've reached the person. But no, I'm saying that, well, you know, there's a difference in the Orleans system. I guess it's been in for 40 or 50 years or even more than that. But we will have a quick response system, which is nice. I mean, it's just a better thing that we have in that case.
Can't be too quick, what if you just fill in a swimming pool or something? How
well-
do they know what, you know what I mean, where's the line drawn?
Well, yes.
People water all day long, and
Well, yes, and we may become more, better operators of the system a year or two from now than what we are on the first day we start.
yeah.
So, let's see, now I also did go to the meeting that, a public meeting was held here in this room this past week, and it was for the persons who live in the landfill contamination area. And Sheila, our town administrator, was present, and the environmental partners had an engineer present. And they discussed with, let's see, we were in this room, and we had 80-some chairs out, and the room was full, and they had had a previous meeting that was the same meeting a week earlier. And I don't know whether it's reached you for news, but I will just tell you what I learned by going. The town is requiring mandatory hookup for the contamination area between Route 6 and Nauset Road. And basically, it appears that the south end of Nauset Road there by the visitor center is the southern limit. I'm not sure exactly where the northern limit is, but they did state it. They did name the name of the room, and that's the town is requiring everybody to hook up at this time, and that the town is going to pay for the installation. There's in that room, they explained that to the public, and at the end of the meeting, people came up and went through the process of scheduling the first site meeting that they would have with a representative from environmental partners that would establish basically where they would put what they call the curb stop, and that's where the the line comes from the pipe, and reaches the edge of the road, and there's a valve there that then the operator of the town water system operates. But exactly where on the property would need to be coordinated with the homeowner, because, you know, they may have a driveway planned, or there may be a big tree or something like that, so it can be shifted a little bit along where on that boundary.
It also has to be in line with where you want your pipes to enter the house.
Yes.
Because
yeah.
I met with them about our curb stop, and they had to, you know, we went inside. I had a pretty good idea where it was. We went inside to where the water now enters the house, worked it out from there.
Yes, yes, exactly. They did say that, well, you know, basically it's mandatory from the town's standpoint, and I want to be clear on that. For everybody else outside the contamination area, it's their choice whether they hook up or not. But as I understood it, that there is apparently a Massachusetts law of some sort, or maybe it's just a legal principle, that a town should do things that protect people's health and environmental health. That's the assumption the town will.
Massachusetts law requires every dwelling to have potable water. So basically, if the town discovers that some dwelling does not have potable water because their water isn't usable, they don't have potable water. So the town has to take steps to deal with that.
I see. Yes. They did bring up, let's see, they were talking about expense, and they gave a figure of $1.80 for 1,000 gallons.
Are you talking about the water rates?
That was the price of the liquid water being delivered. They said in that meeting with the landfill people.
Okay. If we're talking about the water rates and user fees, I think the more reliable way for people to get information is to go and look at the regulations, which have been finalized now, and they contain the water rates and fees at the end of the regulations. And there's a basic water rate, which is paid on a quarterly basis, and then there's a fee related to usage, and I don't remember the exact numbers now, I can go and get them, but that's an escalating amount depending on how much you use. So basically, your rate for your first whatever, I should go and look at it, is X. And then if you go above that and you're using more water, the rate for that is X plus Y. So the idea is to encourage conservation by
Yeah, that
having
makes
an
sense.
ascended water rate. I have the regulations here. It'll take me a minute, I guess, to find them.
What's
So
your?
I don't remember which rate it is you're talking about, but the water rates and fees are in the last iteration of the, get rid of this, of the regulations, which I can't.
Yes,
I
yeah.
can't read these things. And there's a whole chart there at the end of them. Here it is, water regs.
Yes, well, Adele, I'm just quoting what was publicly said at the meeting.
Well, I understand that, Charles, but I think, you know, if you have a final reg, probably can, is this the final one?
Yeah, no, let's do this. Let's,
If this isn't it, I'll have to go back and get it. I think this is
yeah.
it.
But,
Now it says draft 8/12. Let me see if this is it. I don't think so. I think it's, dates all run together after a while.
yeah, it's my understanding that the town at least has the 25-page draft of the rules, the regulations.
Oh, it was finalized at their last meeting.
Ah,
It was
okay.
discussed. And that one included the water rates and fees at the end. And it's been a busy month. I'm losing track of what's what in terms of dates. I think it was 9/5, but I can't swear to it.
While you're doing that, Adele, yeah, I had the figure of $1.80, 1,000 gallons for the first 15,000 gallons. And that was just the starter numbers. No other numbers besides that were said at the
Okay.
landfill meeting. They also said that they gave a figure for a service, and basically as separate from the water, and for it would be $96 for a year, and I believe they were dividing that into quarters, because they gave a quarter figure as well. So, yeah, I don't know, I guess I'm saying just a few numbers such that we're all familiar with the fact that some numbers have been given out in public meetings, and it's what we know now.
Charles, that is not a correct statement, because you say that as if those are the only numbers. All of the numbers were discussed at one meeting when they were being proposed. And at this meeting in which the water regs were finalized, I mean, the numbers were there, they were in the regs. So that's a public announcement of what the numbers are. I mean,
Sure.
so
Oh, yeah, no.
Don't give the impression
No.
that these things were, fully made available, because they have been fully made available.
Yeah, no, you're right, and they, for different classes of consumer, it's my understanding that
There are different
they're
rates.
different rates, all right? And also, when we were talking about meters, there are different size meters. They were talking about industrial
The
operations.
date on the copy of the regs that I have is 8/5/16.
Yeah, no, this is a
Now,
later one. I'm beginning to think that the BOS meeting was 9/7.
Well, my question, Adele, is, are these rates adjustable over time? I mean, how would they even know for
Every
sure?
2 years. I shouldn't say they'll be adjustable. They will be examined every 2 years.
2 years.
And whether or not they choose to adjust them. But, and there may also be an escalator that, I'm not remembering that, but I do know there's a provision for them to be looked at every 2 years.
Sure, yeah.
I'm just having trouble coming up with this.
No, Adele, I agree with the points that you're making. I don't need to mislay
I guess
folks.
it's just a difference. I guess my preference is always in something like this, where it's written down, and if somebody gets the wrong impression, they could get very upset. That I just recommend that anybody who wants, and there may actually, this obvious place I didn't think of is on the town's homepage, that anyone who wants to know the specifics on this should go and look at the regulations and look at the rates and fees that are set out in the regulations, and then they will know exactly what they are.
I agree.
So I think that's a safer way to do it.
The,
I'm assuming it's in the towns.
all right. Okay. That's all the points of information I had on what I knew about construction and what I knew about the landfill area. So, let's see, we've got some other, well, I guess I got one more thing that, on the landfill. When they have an instance of a well from which a sample has been taken and has shown that it has a toxic substance in it at a level that would be of concern, then they were saying that Mass DEP requires that well be closed. And there is a engineering process for closing a well. And basically, when they do that, they close it in a way such that the water from the different heights in the well does not mix. So you don't have a problem of water that's perhaps contaminated down below, working its way up through the well and then going someplace else in that area. And I suppose the other way around too, if the contamination is actually higher, it doesn't go lower type of thing. So, all of that is going to be involved in those wells in the landfill contamination area. Now, I guess what they were saying is that they were saying the wells that showed contamination tested that way had to be closed. I'm going to stop there and not say anything more about what happens to the other wells, because it's not my area of expertise. So, all right. Well, at that,
Yeah, it's, I think the date on it is 95. I mean, you're allowed to, yeah, that's what I thought, that the latest ones are 9/1. They're not up yet on the town website. You can find them in the,
Minutes.
and the meeting packet for the
Okay, I saw how you-
9/6. I keep wanting to say December instead of
how you got there.
September.
Yeah.
Wishing away my life here.
What-
For the September 6th meeting, they're in there. And, you know, on the question of the wells, what the regulations make clear is if you hook up to the public water system, you may maintain your well, your private well, for purposes of landscaping in that. And there are various things that have to be put in place. One is a backflow preventer and that, to make certain that there is no cross connection between the private well and the public water system. But you can continue to use your private well for those limited purposes, so long as you don't mix it in with the town water. And there's also, I'm trying to remember what it is now, something about, there are certain circumstances, and I'm not going to say what they are at this point because I don't remember them, where if you want to, the water line that you are running from the curb stop, you can connect, instead of running a new water line into your house, you can connect the water line you're running from the curb stop to the water line coming out of your old well. But again, that's done in a way so that it doesn't in any way bring the water out of the well or anything. It's just using the existing line, if for some reason you want to use the existing line. And that can only be done under certain circumstances. And it's all explained in here. I'm just flipping through here to get to the water rates. Here we go. Okay. Oh, there is a 2.5% annual increase, effective on July 1, 2018. But there's also provision in here, I think, for them to, on a biennial basis, I think, anyway, to look at this again, you know, the rates and that sort of thing. And those are the rates, the base service fee, which is what Charles was talking about.
yeah, that's showing, I'm reading $84 on that screen.
Well, there was $96 was in an original draft, and that, the meeting may have been held at the time of that, I don't know.
I see, okay.
See, example, the base service fee is an example for residents, it was just an example that they had 96, but it wasn't really the rate. See it down about eighth or ninth red line, the bit. They just put 96 as an example, not as an
Oh,
actual, not as a real number.
Okay, so that's where
Just
that
chose-
came
That's where
from.
that 90s came from, just as an example.
Sure, that's where that came from. Okay.
But it was-
Adele, could you say again for the folks at home where you have found this?
On the homepage, you started.
You're saying-
This is, okay. If you go to the Board of Selectmen's page on the Town of Eastham website, and you will see a line, I can go back, actually. Do it that way. Okay. Go back one more. All right. So, you know how to get to the Board of Selectmen's
Right,
page?
yeah.
Okay. You see meeting agenda and packets?
Yes.
Select that. If you have blood in your fingers, so the touchscreen will relate to you. And then, these are all the packets by year. You scroll down to 2016.
Right.
Meeting agenda packets. And since I know this happened on September 6th, I
Okay.
go to that packet. Okay. And what I did, actually, you have to scroll through. I don't remember what page this started at. But if you go to well, I know, I'm on 22, I know, so I can go back to the beginning. Okay, so the first page is the agenda, the second page is agenda, and you just got to scroll through. So maybe some people can search on this. I haven't been able to. I can only search if I download it. And you come up with the Eastham Municipal Water System Rules and Regulations. And on the computer, which may not correspond to the same page numbers as you get if you just look at the regulations, but on this computer, because it's part of the packet, if you go to page 22, you get the water use rates and fee schedule.
Good. All right.
Okay, and then as you see, those are the fees per 1,000 gallons up to 15,000, then over 15,000, there's a higher amount. Over whatever the next one is, 30,000 is a higher amount. And then there's a higher amount again above 50,000. And it's the water use billing periods, TBA means to be announced, not yet decided. So they will decide how often bills go out.
Great. All right. The, yeah, I don't know, just the plumbing meeting that I went to, that was back on the 13th of August. The landfill meeting that I went to, the one I went to was the 7th of September. So, just, so those, that keeps things clear as they can be. All right, shall we move to a different topic? I can just kind of, as far as I know, the Nauset Harbor, Nauset Marsh water sampling completed without a problem. I was involved in the one for Salt Pond, and the readings that we got were similar to years before. And this time of year, the oxygen content is very low at the bottom of Salt Pond. I don't know if I can, I know
What you mean by that, Charles, is that the collection was completed without a problem, not that
what
the
he meant,
waters were not
not
problematic.
right, we've,
The
yeah,
collection process.
and found that
Process of collecting it was
the collection,
problem-free.
right, as far as I know, which is good news. We've done 5 samplings. We had 6 teams out there. We had the National Seashore doing 2 persons doing one of them, and samples were collected, brought back. Didn't appear to be any systemic mistakes, in other words, wrong instructions going to everybody or anything like that. And that's what Jane would probably tell us next month, but I think she would say that. In terms of the Nauset Marsh, Town Cove, Rock Harbor wastewater work that our GHD engineering consulting firm is doing, Adele, I think you've already asked the key question as to whether GHD has turned in either a draft or a final report, because we're working towards, I believe, what's 2 memorandums. And
Tech memos 3 and 4.
Tech
And at
memos 3 and 4.
The August meeting, Jane said that she was expecting them within 3 to 4 weeks after that meeting, which would have made them sometime around September 6th.
Yes.
But, it's,
The,
heard anything since then?
yeah, haven't heard anything. All right. The, so we've done that one, and we've done that one. We go to 5. Let's see, I can talk a little bit about Windmill Weekend.
We could talk a lot about Windmill Weekend. But we'll listen to a little.
I know, and I'll be ready to do so a year from now. I have, I did send out an email that listed all of the different paper documents that I had available to me at the table. I have brought in, so that email does list them all, and I was hoping that could kind of be the record. If we want to do the same thing in another year, we at least know the documents we had out. I've also laid out one copy of each on the table. And if you may be new in that direction and you want to just kind of refresh your mind as to what's possible, we do have a collection of documents that have come to us now over the past, perhaps even 10 years, that seem to fit the different subjects that we're working with. Let's see. I had a lot of good conversations. I think that I was reaching folks that didn't already know particular pieces of information. I didn't get as far as I could see, really any serious complaints of people thinking that from what they knew, things were going in the wrong direction. Let's see. I didn't turn any more prospects up for perhaps recruiting, but it does work out that way. Scott Lewis basically comes to us from just contact across the table in a previous Windmill Weekend and showed interest and came to us. This particular booklet, the Massachusetts Lake and Pond Guide, continues to be very popular. It says it was printed in 2005, but it is a very clear statement of what's going on in the ponds in Massachusetts, how you understand it and whatnot. Hello, Jane. Hello. Also, I was able to get from the Cape Cod Commission a new edition of their brochure that basically explains how the water gets contaminated, what problems it has, and how we understand them. And that actually was, a packet of them was delivered to me by Cape Cod Commission within 3 days, just before the meeting. They were very responsive in that direction. No, but from what they said, they actually made a change in it and ran a printing of it. So I think it's, fresh within the last month or so. I think that just gives a reasonable summary of what was going on there. I got some rain. Oh, I know. Having the big groundwater map, I think I've had it in here once, but it's 4 feet by 4 feet, that shows the big mound of water up in North Eastham from which we're drawing our public water supply. That's helpful. I think that in drawing people to the table, but it's also helping people form their questions, ask what's going on. It has detail on it that you can indicate basically where the contamination from the landfill starts, and where it goes, and why it goes in that direction, so you're going downgrade. So that seems to be a good way of approaching it.
Charles, I looking
Yep.
at this list, I'm assuming some of this stuff was exhibited but not distributed, right? Like you have the Cape Cod area-wide water quality management plan update.
You're right.
Okay, so some of it was stuff that was there for people to look at if they wanted to look at it.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't know where the questions would go, so on a document like that, I brought the document. And because in past years, I've had some regulatory professionals and scientists, engineers come up, and they're already pretty deep into the subject, and they'd want to go a little bit deeper. So if I can just pick up a copy of the document and say, here, I think it's in here, that's the last place I've read anything about it, so maybe that will help you.
I'm also noticing on your CCs, and I guess I should have noticed this on the emails, I don't believe Elizabeth Gorin is our liaison anymore.
Oh, really?
They went through at some work session and they changed liaisons, I thought. So if no one has told you anything, I would check with the town administrator's office and see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought, unless they shuffled them again, but that was at a meeting at which they shuffled them, and she was doing some other stuff, so.
Okay, yeah, no, that's, I have not had many conversations with Elizabeth on water, so that could be part of it. Okay, and just so everyone here is clear, I pointed out to folks that I'm neither a scientist nor an engineer, and basically the information that I was speaking at the table was basically information that I had heard in public meetings and had at least gone through that type of a filter. And explained to them my background is agriculture, and I really want to make a point of that. I want to be very careful that we let the information on the public water supply come from the engineers that are building the system or the town officials that, would be the logical point for that information. I don't want to add confusion to the overall discussion. It's quite complex. I guess I could, just as a sidelight on that point, one of the brochures basically has the toxic waste disposal. And the 17th of September is the day in which homeowners in Eastham can take what would be hazardous waste to the DPW at this time on the 17th of September in Orleans. We essentially are sharing the brochure. We've already had ours in July, and so the next one is in September. And at the location is the DPW and Highway Garage at 22 Bay Ridge Lane. And on the brochure, there is the list of what they take. They will take old gasoline. They will not take latex paint, but cleaners, yard chemicals, things like that. So weed killers, insecticides, pesticides were also listed in there. So,
Charles, I think if you bring a can of latex paint there now, they ask you to just take the cover off and let it dry out. So that,
Yeah, that's what they ask you to
It's-
do,
Right.
right?
If I can, this is sponsored by the Board of Health. The latex paint is not hazardous material, so you don't want to be spending tax dollars to dispose of something that's not hazardous materials. It's very expensive. So all latex paint can be disposed of at the regular transfer station, but what you don't want to do is make it a spill problem. So it has to be dried. So either if you only have a half an inch left in the can, let it dry, or if you need to absorb it, put in kitty litter or some other absorbent material so that it's a solid when it's disposed of at your regular transfer station. Marine paint that anything that contains lead is hazardous waste, so depending on what kind of paint we're talking about, some are hazardous.
Sure.
I think I've got some in my hand now.
And if people want to read the brochure, it's on the Board of Health website, and you can see there's a copy of the brochure, of the date as a reminder, and also all the materials. If you happen to be a small business and you want to take advantage of this opportunity to reduce your transportation costs, you can work it out with the vendor. So you just bring in, if you happen to be a small painting company, for instance, you can bring in your, whether it's whatever your cleaners or whatever your hazardous material might be. They will work up a price quote for you, and you will be able to pay for that business use, but at least you save on the transportation costs, so it's definitely a win-win.
So, Jane, now that you're here, it might be wise
Back to
that,
the top of the agenda.
yeah, we ask you to,
Yes, sorry, we had a workshop with the Board of Health, so we've got a lot going on that front, so had to schedule that today, so I apologize for being late. Yeah, I'll start with, some of the things that we are discussing at the Board of Health, and it's of interest to water management and town interest as well. We're talking about a new plan, a conceptual plan that's in place right now for Governor Prince development, which is the old Tea Time. It will be a 40B development, and the Board of Health and other local boards are just really in very preliminary discussion with Paul Lag attended our Board of Health workshop, just introducing what the project entailed and looking for Board of Health to weigh in on comments back to the zoning board, because this application process will be handled by the zoning board. And so that is coming up, and so you can stay posted on upcoming zoning board meetings that will be taking place this week, actually. The Board of Health also discussed a very little bit irrigation well policies in the area downgrading of the landfill. We're just starting those discussions, and we will be talking about that aspect in more detail in upcoming meetings. Also wanted to give you an update on the landfill environmental investigation. As you know, that investigation continues, and we're trying to determine the extent of the plume. We've defined it in some areas better than in others, and that took us further south. And so in our most recent efforts last month, we actually had another detection that was above the 0.3 micrograms per liter 1,4-dioxane action limit. So with that, it really now has shifted the necessity to go even further down gradient and expand the testing area. So something we thought we sort of had contained, if you will, needs further investigation. So the environmental investigation will continue, and so that's where we are. So that is, again, ongoing, and we keep all those reports, the immediate response action reports that we file quarterly, on our website, so that people can have access to the latest published information. Of course, this recent testing round is not part of that last quarterly report, it will be in the next quarterly report. So we continue to work with environmental strategies and management to that end. So if people do receive letters or telephone calls from our consultant, that is the work effort that's ongoing. In terms of wastewater planning, the summertime, we were slowed down a little bit, I would say. We had the work conducted by AECom through funding acquired through the Cape Cod Commission's 208 process, done to investigate the initial site characterization of Salt Pond with a PRB, and also they did a conception, actually a full stormwater design for a bioretention or gravel infiltration system. So those work efforts, we have not actually had a meeting with the consultant, and I just was contacted by Patty Daly yesterday, and we will be having meetings with them very soon. So internally, the Cape Cod Commission staff was going to be discussing our 2 projects on Wednesday, and then we will be meeting with our partners, which include Cape Cod National Seashore, very shortly. So I'll be able to give you an update at that time. GHD continues to work on our work products. Again, summer vacations and whatnot we haven't received our deliverables, and I would expect that work to be back on track at this point in time. The library, I'm sure you've all been hearing about the library issue. The Board of Health has been involved in approving a redesign for that site. I'll take you back to the original early goings with that project. It came before the Board of Health in 2014, and the system that was approved by the Board of Health was, in fact, not installed according to the approved plan, and it was modified by the project manager after the approval, and when final inspections were being conducted, it was determined that the system was not installed according to the approved plan. So it came back to the Board of Health, and a modified design was approved. So we have sent out an approval letter with many conditions, and that's where it stands right now. So just an update on that. Does, obviously, it abuts Depot Pond, which is of concern to this board and to the Board of Health. I am, just so you know, there is secondary treatment installed. There has been much discussion between the partners involved in the project, the engineer, DEP, the technology company that marketed the system, and also we called in the George Heufelder from Barnstable County Department of Health and Environment to weigh in on the redesign. So there's been a really full, lengthy discussion, and there have been some modifications which ultimately should improve the function of that system, and the outcome hopefully is protective to the environment and the best design we could possibly get. So that is another project that's sort of on the table. We had been trying to get Solitude, which was formerly Aquatic Control Technology, is one of the companies that we work with directly here in Eastham. They did both of our pond treatment projects, both Herring and Great Pond. They were acquired by Solitude, and we invited them to come down to look at Schoolhouse Ministers Pond and give us their opinion, to weigh in, and they did so. They came down, and I just received back a contract, if you will, from them. I had wanted to get comments from both Shayna Brogan and from Liz Moran, our consultant who worked on our pond projects. So I'm just in the process of putting together their comments in conjunction with the proposal that I received and get back to Solitude. So it's a little premature. I wanted to make sure that all of their points were covered, so, but they did get back to us just as of last week, late last week.
What
So,
are they proposing?
Again, I want to make sure that I've integrated everything we need.
Well, just
So,
roughly, I mean.
it's
what
an
are they doing?
aquatic vegetation survey contract?
Oh, it's based, so it's not remediation
Oh,
yet,
no.
it's still just
No, it
looking-
would just be further assessment, so before they could,
Which
yeah.
would mean basically there's nothing that could be done this year, I'm assuming.
no. So, yeah, but I want to make sure that we thoroughly address everything that's of Shayna's concern with conservation, that we don't miss anything, that, that it's an inclusive assessment, and also to take into account any recommendations that Liz has made, and she's in Switzerland right now, so. So I'm going to synchronize all that information and then get back to Solitude, and I'll let you know if they revise the bid or whatnot. So,
Jane,
I
can
think that's it.
Can I interrupt at that point? We do have the letter from the committee going to Sharon Shipley and the Pond Abutters from last January. It would seem to me that when you finish, your round of assessment and comments, we would tell her what we know.
Right.
And I'm, I see that coming. I see it as a way of following up with
I
it.
think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So I think
Jane,
that's
I
it.
have one question. You said that we now, in one of our new wells, test wells, have found the 0.3 micrograms of 1.4 dioxane. So that's the bad news, the boundary has got to be expanded a little bit. In any of the ongoing wells that we've had detection at that level or greater, have we seen any reduction? Is there any leveling off or dropping?
We have a protocol in place because this is an endlessly expensive environmental investigation. What basically we're required to do by the regulatory DEP, our regulatory agency that we have to report to, is whenever you have a release, you need to provide a solution to the impacted parties, the critical exposure pathways, they're called. So in this case, our permanent solution to the problem is supplying municipal water. But that does not end our responsibility to continue the investigation. So our permanent solution is that these homeowners now will be able to have supplied drinking water. And in terms of the investigation, the product itself is so infinitely miscible in water that it's extremely difficult to wrap your hands around. And it's very diffuse, and the other complex factor is that it's in wastewater. So it's a very complicated situation. And I don't know how, and this is not a problem that's isolated to the town of Eastham.
I've seen it nationwide.
It's nationwide. I just read a report that Orleans landfill has an exceedance of 1,4-dioxane. So the more you look for it at the analytical levels that we now are able to find it, detect it, report it, it's there. It's a really bad product, like MTBE years ago in gasoline was removed because it causes such environmental havoc, again, it's very soluble in water, but 1,4-dioxane is orders of magnitude more soluble. So it's very challenging. So we're,
Okay, you answered my question.
just continue to try to satisfy the requirements and work with the regulators. And honestly, they have been very cooperative because it's crossed over jurisdictional boundaries on their side as well, because it involves immediate response, it involves the drinking water people, and it involves the solid waste regulatory staff. So we've had 3 different entities working hand in hand with us, including very high-level support from the administrators at DEP to back us with funding for SRF approval and so forth. I mean, so we have had steady, consistent partnerships, and I know Sheila would say the same thing. I've really appreciated their support and partnership, because they know, you know, we're facing a very tough problem, and, you know, in a difficult situation. So, you know, we happen to have all these down gradient wells, all these down gradient receptors. It's probably a nationally occurring problem, but we happen to have a lot of direct public health exposure.
Jane, on this Solitude proposal, is this, assuming we could go forward with it, is this money the town has to pay for it, or are they gonna have to get CPA money, CPC?
You know, I thought, you know, I know that the town has really stepped up and supported, you assisted or written, the previous projects that were approved. I think it's a great path to take. The proposal that I have in hand right now, I might be able to handle with my budget this year. Or I have a pond article that I think might be able to support this. So rather than having to meet the deadlines, I think we could go ahead. I just want to make sure everything's in here that needs to get done, that I don't pay them all this money and then say, oh, well, we should have, you know, Conservation wanted you to include something or other. It's out of my,
Yeah.
sort of my wheelhouse, so I have to rely on them and hope they didn't miss something to tell me, you know, to include it. So I think we could do this assessment this year, but I think we're running up, you know, we need to make a decision quickly, because the plants die, you know. Once we get into the cold weather, we're back where we were last year, so. So I hope to be able to get to this by the end of the week. So once I send them a letter, I'll copy water management on it. Okay.
Let's see, I'm just checking the points that we've already talked a little bit about. Just to clear the deck, let's see. My understanding is that with our DPW being very busy in the summer, that as we pass through the summer, we will be getting some type of a design that would handle the runoff from Park Street that goes down to Depot Pond. It's an alive action. It's just taking a pause for the summertime because of other things that are going on. But I'm kind of keeping my eye on that one.
Park Street that goes into Schoolhouse Ministers Pond?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, by the elementary school there. And we do have, to me, a commitment by the DPW to do a structure there, but they just need some time to bring it up on their list. Jane, I did want to ask you, everything went okay as we finished Nauset Marsh sampling?
Yeah, oh, thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, that was an excellent first-year experience. I hope that every year to follow is equally as successful. We had 6 sample stations. We collected 5 rounds of samples, 5 different days. So that was a total of 30 samples, and we collected 29 out of the 30. So there was just one miss, and it was in an area where the 2 stations are very close together, so I don't think anything was lost. I truly am very appreciative of all that assisted with bringing the samples. Adele assisted with transportation, which is a huge help, and all the people that took the samples. So the one thing I actually was not aware of is we're not going to get back the results until
January.
like 4 months from now. I'm
Yeah.
hoping that maybe that's pessimistic in that we could get the results back much sooner, but we'll see. I'm told that it takes a very long time to get back results from SMAS.
Yes, no, that's my experience too. It's from previous years. I think SMAS balances its work for the year by being real busy in the field in the summer, but then putting hours in the chemistry lab doing the analysis. Meanwhile, the samples are just sitting in cold storage. I think that's their work pattern, and it's long, but you do get the results back.
Well, I mean, we are working cooperatively with Orleans, and that's who, so sort of we're a captive audience. I don't think we have a lot of control over that. I'm just really appreciative of the fact that the Provincetown Center for the Coastal Studies group gets us back the results very quickly, so I guess we're spoiled by them, so. And then to add to the sampling program, so this is our first year, we're sharing data sheets, field data sheets with the town of Orleans. Paul Lag has helped establish a little database so that we're going to be able to keep this collective information in a form where it's easily retrieved, and I'm keeping photos and so forth. So that's all really, I think, good for the long-term program. And also Sandy Bain is out leading volunteers on pond sampling, which this is the second time ponds are sampled in the course of the year with the volunteers. So she has more field work she's doing. I know that Scott and others, I don't know if anybody else does pond sampling here. No, you don't, no. Well, anyway, they're
Yeah.
out, yep,
Yeah,
taking pond samples the next few weeks, so. And we kind of regrouped all the equipment, have it all stored here, cleaned it all off, so it'll be all good to go next year.
Great group. Yeah, I can add to that. In talking with Sandy, I do know that she, I guess, has a gentleman by the name of Paul Higgins who has stepped up to do the fall sampling for Minnesota Schoolhouse.
Oh, good.
Because, and from her emails,
And he lives on Higgins,
yes, or on Minnesota Schoolhouse, yeah, and
right? Yeah.
And the fall sampling closes on the 15th, 13th today, so it closes on Thursday.
All right.
Yeah, so,
We knew what you meant.
yeah. All right, I've talked about that one. Let's see. I did call Erin Perry and ask her if there was going to be any kind of a report from Cape Cod Commission about all of the individual watershed plans that the towns turned in back in June. I was just asking, did they have any public statement as to how all that went? I didn't get an answer, but I kind of got the feeling that I would get an answer, or something was coming in that direction. So that's basically fits under the Eastham Area Watershed Management Agencies type of thing that I have on the agenda. Well, we're getting down pretty close to the end of the topics I've been thinking of. I've got a couple here. On the back side of the agenda that you have is the agenda for tomorrow's Orleans Water Quality Advisory Panel meeting. And the reason I've brought it out for you is that I just wanted you to get know the array or a sampling of the various topics that come up for that meeting, all the different things that we have going on at the moment. You can see the second item there is Tri-Town, closure and decommissionings. They continue to talk about the concept of public-private partnerships and going through the financial evaluations. The public-private partnerships is the concept of where a particular project is actually sort of in a bundle, if I can use the slang term, delivered to to a non-government agency, to a private enterprise, and they do the work of it, and it involves providing labor, but it also involves providing the structures, capital investments. So that's being discussed, and that's, from what I get a feeling, I don't know whether you know, Jeff, but it's, there are instances where governments are turning to private organizations, commercial organizations, to do a particular thing that's in the past has been actually done by a government activity. So that's the concept that they're looking at.
It's been going on since the 1980s.
1980s, okay.
And growing. And there's an article in this morning's Boston Globe about the union's unhappiness with some moves towards privatization of the MBTA system.
Ah,
So
okay.
talking about it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a big saving. That was how it was sold in the 1980s. I think many places that moved to it have discovered that it did save them any money at all. In fact, it cost them more money.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
That it did not save them any money at all, but it cost them more money. But it still goes on, you know.
Our own political views color our thinking on this issue.
Yeah. Well, going along with that, I've noticed that the job opportunities for engineers have shifted a bit, in that it does seem like there are jobs for engineers more in public-private partnership situations than what there has been in the past. And, you know, I could just say, well, it's possible in the past they just weren't able to attract the labor force to competently do the work, but perhaps now there are more able people that, so it's a reasonable way of looking at it. I'm just, you know, just my own speculation. Going down a little further, we've got that aquaculture going on. The good news is that the oysters are growing very rapidly in Lonnie's Pond. That concept is working. And the information, and I understand that SMAS has been there and done core samples of the sediment to basically figure out, to properly monitor what all is happening for possibilities. And the shellfish folks down there did decide at their last meeting that they do want to overwinter the oysters. You know, you apparently you can take lobsters and put them in a water-filled container and put them in a basement, and the cool temperatures will cause the oyster just to sort of be dormant until they can be set back out in the natural environment. And they are thinking about how they want to do this into the future. In other words, you might say, what is the business plan of this? They definitely decided that they didn't want to eat the oysters. They said, these oysters are basically still juvenile, and they're in that juvenile period where they're growing rapidly and they're not being bothered by any of the predators of oysters, and so they're getting, a real good sense of what that particular type of pilot project is capable of. So to me, that's encouraging. And as I say, looking a little further down, they are continuing on with permeable reactive barriers. If you're looking on the list there, they're talking about horizontal on-site PRBs. We're talking in the concept of just putting in a vertical well, but apparently there is the technology that would allow them to also do a horizontal type of approach. And I guess there's some savings or you can get to places where you can't otherwise generally get to. So they're talking about both Eldridge Parkway, which is where the ball field is down there in Orleans, as far as I know, and they're also talking about their landfill.
What is the nitrogen removing barriers for $119,000?
I circled that too, I wanted to know.
Are you in this thing?
Yeah, on the spreadsheet.
Yeah,
I haven't heard about those.
where are you on the?
I'm on the costing estimates spreadsheet,
Yes,
Demonstration projects?
yes.
Yeah.
and you're,
Right there, what are these?
And in terms of Lonnie's Pond, so they're spending close to $600,000, more than $600,000. And so what's the ongoing annual cost of sustaining that?
I don't know, but basically what they're doing in Lonnie's Pond is finding out how many oysters it takes to achieve how much benefit. This is a pilot. And they have to figure out how much labor it takes, because they check the floating bags once a week, they flip them over, and there's all that business of work. And I think there's something like 200,000 small oysters they started with, a lot. So they want to get to the point where they know how much good they can get for how many dollars in a terminal pond situation like Lonnie's is, and they have a couple other terminal ponds as well. So if it proves out well, and it proves out less expensive than physical construction, capital investment and all that type of thing, then that would be the good news. And as far as I know, this is cutting edge for Cape Cod right now. I haven't heard any other towns
No,
involved.
I don't remember where they were, but at that June meeting, Cape Cod Commission, it was one and possibly two presentations. I remember it because I remember vividly the video of them tossing the oysters. So there was, I don't,
Well,
I
Wellstate
don't
has a
remember which-
project in Mashpee also, but they're, this is,
yeah, but this was a very big one. I don't remember what it was. This guy had a whole video on it and all the rest of it. So there are other, it's a big project. But nitrogen removing barriers, if you compare it to their list, that may be what they're calling the horizontal on-site PRBs.
right,
Because otherwise they only talk about Eldridge Park and
Right.
landfill. But what I was looking at, and I can't quickly find my email, is that newspaper article said they had $50,000 for development of a pond plan. And I thought
Yes.
that was supposed to be in this warrant, but unless it's hidden here with some language that I can't decipher, it doesn't seem to be in here. Or maybe it's a separate budget item,
Yeah,
but the
that's-
article described
It
it
is,
as
it
if
is
was-
described as a wastewater warrant,
Yeah.
so maybe that's in,
Yeah. But the article described it as was all part of the same amount, but maybe not. Anyway, interesting to see what they have when they put their warrant together.
Yeah, no, I got the feeling on their pond plan that it would be something fairly similar to what we did back in
Yeah. the ecologic
2011
thing, yeah.
2011 or 2010 with Liz Moran and Ecologic. They had yet to do a plan in that way. And but that appears to be a side subject. They're definitely going forward on shellfish. They're definitely going forward on the wastewater. And I guess I could say a little bit more. They've made a decision that they definitely are going to go forward with some type of collection and sewering system for the village of down in Orleans. Now, it's complicated because you have some businesses in there that have built their own wastewater facility. And they've put in a big, I guess, tight tank, holding tank, or they've come up with something that represents a serious investment. And the smart thing to do is try and maximize the use of what you've already spent, but then in some way align it with a collection system that would eventually serve that particular building. Yep.
I'm a little confused. So they're showing their original budget for what they proposed. The original proposed full-year budget was $2,400,000, and now they have a revised budget of $4,180,000, and they have a deficit of $1,774,000. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jane, I don't know anymore.
That's what it says.
However,
Original to the revised difference of the full-year budget.
yeah, what we have here is the paper going into tomorrow's meeting, and the intent is to produce a simple way of understanding it such that when they have their town meeting on the 24th of October, people will know more about the numbers than they know now. That's the reading I have here. I can't tell you at the moment what's the difference between those 6 or 5 columns going across the page there. I mean, I suppose I've heard it, but I just don't pick up the numbers that closely. They are, at this point, and these numbers can be big. And I was talking a little bit about downtown. As far as I know, the owner of Snow's has kind of stepped up, and he is helping all of the other businesses discuss their way of getting from where they are right now over to a sewer system for the village. And they're the ones that have to do that because there'll probably be a particular sewage fee that they'll have to step up to, but they're also have spent some money already coming up with what they have. And that's, that's a lot of business work. It's a lot of engineering work going on at the same time. And it can't really go on just through engineers because you've got to have the business people because they have the sense of the value of what they have and what they intend to do. I guess I could also say that on the last day of August, all of the staff is no longer there at the Tri-Town. Tri-Town has gone into a period of that facility is just going to sit for about a year until the actual demolition starts. So they'll go through the process of designing the demolition and then bidding out the demolition and then beginning to carry it out. So, but that's a facility that's, I guess, operated since, what was it, 1985 or so? It's quite a long period, and that was quite a step forward at that time when that was built for what wastewater activities were going on in this part of the Cape. So, so as I say, that this is the contractor coming back to the panel with as clear a financial outline as possible, going to the town meeting that they'll have in October and vote on this. And the voting is important because money has not been voted for past October for all this business going on at Lonnie's Pond. Basically, the assumption is money was going to come, but, you know, if for some reason it doesn't come, then that's a problem, because they've already put an awful lot of effort into getting Lonnie's Pond to the point where it is. So, I'm thinking with that, I've come to the end of the particular points of information I wanted to talk about. I don't know if anybody has anything more they want to mention. That
Well, those budget numbers really don't inspire a lot of confidence, do they?
Excuse me?
I say the budget numbers don't inspire a lot of confidence. I mean, they would
It's,
be as far off as they would.
it's very significant
Yeah,
difference.
you're right.
Yeah. But that kind of money, that size of money, has been waiting 10 years or more to actually come to this point of discussion. I mean,
The pond money was in the wastewater budget request.
And now it's gone?
Well, I don't see it anyplace. It should be 50, it says close to 50,000, it's $44,000 was the line item. I don't see anything for $44,000. Now, I know there was some unhappiness with their increases, so maybe they started nickel and diming, I don't know. You're going up by 1.7 million, I don't know, I'd worry about
Wait.
$40,000, but who
No,
knows?
Not significant.
But I think that would seem to indicate that it has disappeared. Too bad.
Well, I want to thank you, Charles, for representing the Water Management Committee on Windmill Weekend. I saw how hard you were working this weekend.
Thank you.
And you had, probably at any one time, several people waiting to speak to you, and you always were up on your feet and working very hard, and I saw that you did get a lot of the word out, so thank you again. I saw you from my viewpoint at my booth, and then when I was going to join you, it started to rain, so I was
You
saying.
gave up?
So I gave up. I ran for the hills.
Plan that rain.
No, I didn't. But again, thank you on behalf of the committee that you've done that work for us again.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it, but I could add a little bit more. You know, there was a man and a woman, I'm not clear on their last name. We discussed Minnesota Schoolhouse Pond. I did give the man a copy of this document because it fits in. You know, it basically, it's a layman's way of figuring out what some of these plants are. Let's see, I did say to them, Jane, that we were at that point where we were, you had made contact with Solitude, and, you know, the next step was coming, but I didn't say anything further on that. I guess I could also say that when I went to the Eastham Part-Time Residents Association meeting, I did speak with, I guess it's a Mark Sullivan. He is one of the abutters, and he was attending that meeting, and he definitely brought up the subject of doing something more for Minnesota Schoolhouse Pond. So I think we have a lot of abutters demonstrating interest in that area. Okay, so have
I
we?
have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second?
Second?
No discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. 5-0-0.
We talk about miniatures.